WWE is planning 2-night PLEs. Tony Khan and AEW respond, kind of, to the Rey Fenix drama. And we got some very interesting updates on Bryan Danielson. Is he truly retired? What is going on? We're going to talk about it right here, right now on The Ango Show. I want to kick things off with Bryan Danielson. He was speaking with Denise Salcedo of Instinct Culture. And basically, there's a couple things that you guys need to know. He's happy. Despite the lack of sleep, despite the health issues, despite all of that, he is happy, which is good because Bryan Danielson at this point may not ever return to in-ring action, which is not the first time we've heard this concept for Bryan. But at the same time, too, it's a little bit different now. I mean, he won the world championship. He got to celebrate with his family. Things are a little bit different for Bryan. Now, what was really interesting is at the same time, today we had the AEW All-In ticket pre-sale media event thing. And Bryan Danielson did not confirm when he'll return. I know with his interview with Denise Salcedo, he says that he's not going to be resorting to surgery as a first option. In fact, that will be his last option. So we know Bryan Danielson isn't going to be a full-time competitor. We know that Bryan Danielson will not be getting surgery. He's going to be looking at alternatives, which is great. Hopefully those alternatives allow him to come back and wrestle. But also at the same time, too, we know that he will, in fact, 100% be at All In. He did clarify, he did confirm that his plan will be to be at AEW All In. So whether it's backstage, whether it's commentary, whether it's in-ring promo, or maybe even wrestling, if he gets cleared, we know that Bryan Danielson will be back. The whole thing about Bryan that's really tricky, and it's a little bit unfortunate for me as a fan. I'm a huge Bryan Danielson fan, and I loved his work in WWE, and I loved his work in AEW, and I thought he was such a great asset to the AEW program. And it's just really unfortunate to see kind of what has transpired here, honest to God. Like, this guy, he's had his great career, but I feel like there was still so much more they could have done with him in AEW. And that's not Tony Khan's fault. That's not Bryan's fault. I mean, that's just naturally how it is. He came back from a very serious injury, and obviously those injuries have caused problems. And, when he tells Denise Salcedo, it's kind of like having kids. Like, you don't sleep for the first 3 weeks. It's really interesting in hearing that perspective because he is having sleepless nights. This guy is obviously not at 100%, but he still maintains such a positive mindset. And I think there's a lot of people who could learn from him in that regard. So I'm not saying no, Bryan Danielson is officially done because he's not saying no, but it's going to be a while till we see him in the ring. All right, guys, Tony Khan and AEW. This is some interesting stuff. We have an update. Rey Fenix put out that tweet. I needed a doctor. You ignored me for months. And, I made that video earlier today. Here's the big update. Tony Khan and AEW are not going to comment at this time. And they said they cannot comment on medical claims. This is according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. So Fightful has done a remarkable job of doing interviews and doing media for AEW and covering stories in AEW. And usually for the most part, Sean and AEW, I would say they have like a relatively good relationship. Fightful has a good reputation for not necessarily looking at like, I don't know, like they have a good reputation with their stories and accuracy and stuff like that. So this is one of those things where they've gone to AEW, asked for a comment, and Tony Khan's company is choosing to remain silent at this time. So does that add validity to Rey Fenix's claim? I don't know. But it is a pretty serious claim when you're talking about inhumane treatment. When you come out and say, I needed a doctor and you ignored me for months, I don't know if staying quiet is the best idea. Now, I know on my last video that I uploaded today, I know people were saying, Ango, why would you want positive press at a time where there's negative press? I don't think people understand this, so let me address this. AEW and WWE, they're going to have negative things being said about them. There's going to be negative stories about them, and that's true, and that's never going to go away. But I would much rather see that these negative stories actually don't exist at all, right? Like, I would like, when you hear about WWE and some of these scandals with Vince or whatever, you would like to think that none of those things are true, And you would also like to think that like negligence backstage in any wrestling company isn't true. You would like to think that like there is no negative things that are happening backstage, but we don't live in a perfect world. So I think people need to understand, for me, it's like, I don't want AEW to have positive press to cover things up. What I want is AEW to just simply stop having all of these negative stories hit them. And a lot of these negative stories always tie into backstage drama or communication issues. And this is one of those things where we don't even know the full story with Rey Fenix. He's being very cryptic, and AEW is not publicly responding at this time. And at the end of the day, all this is going to do is literally just cause wrestling fans to keep talking about it until the answers come out. And I would much rather have AEW just close this chapter of the book, let Rey Fenix go, stop this from happening. But on the flip side to that, I understand that Tony Khan can't just let everybody go, because if anybody else wants to leave AEW, what are they going to do? They're just going to go on social media and do what Rey Fenix did or do what CM Punk did. So I think that's one of the big things people need to understand. It's a very, very tricky situation, but Tony Khan and AEW staying quiet on it, I don't know if that's necessarily helpful. We'll have to wait and see what happens next. Okay, guys, WWE CEO Mark Shapiro, for the CEO of TKO, by the way. He says there are opportunities for WWE to expand into 2-night PLE events. He was speaking at the UBS Global Media and Communications Conference, and long story short, he says it's all a progression and it's all a natural evolution. WrestleMania was a big hit. Now, obviously, WWE, they're killing it with their stories. They're killing it with their ticket sales. They're killing it with their TV viewership. They're killing it with their popularity. They have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and now they're doing Saturday Night's Main Event, and then they're doing all of these PLEs. WWE is not shying away from whether or not they will do 2-night PLEs. Now, they did it obviously with WrestleMania. It seemed to be a success. Now we know they're doing it with SummerSlam in Minneapolis. We'll see if that's a big thing. I personally don't like the idea of every single PLE being a 2-night extravaganza. I don't. I like WWE. I like AEW. I like TNA. I like all these companies. I don't think 2-night PLEs are really that exciting. If I had it my way, I probably wouldn't have WrestleMania being 2 nights. But the money is there. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of success with it. And I do see WWE potentially going that route long term. I think it starts with the big 4, and then eventually every PLE could become a 2-night experience. I think it's too much, to be honest. I think it's too much. It's probably good for my business, being that, you know, if there's 2 nights, that means there's 2 nights of extra coverage for the event. But in my personal opinion, you know, as a fan, from a fan's perspective, I just think it's too much to do these PLEs. They're too long. I just don't like that idea. So WWE will probably do it because that's where the money's at. And then I think if WWE shows great success with it, I think other companies will follow suit. And I think that's just all a bunch of BS. So you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But I'll see you guys next time right here on the Ango Show.